Okay, Shalom. Shalom, Shalom. Kwam Yasha'Allah, Koholoyim La Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Kahadash. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and that by the Spirit taught us this beautiful truth. Just want to say the water to all the H.I.M and Ahwaf that's out here sincerely keeping the laws, the statutes, and commandments of Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai to the best of their ability. This is Yah Hanan Nawaf. Just coming at you with another quick lesson, praying that it's edifying by the Spirit. This is going to be a quick one. And if you're familiar with what's going on with this Druski character, you know, he portrayed, tried to portray the Hebrew Israelites were IUIC. You know, if you remember that skit with him being in the purple and yellow, we say IUIC because that's the color that they wear. And, you know, a bunch of other skits, he done the pastors, you know what I'm saying? Overreaching, prosperity preaching pastors, he gets a lot of views off of these things. He's supposedly this, comedian. He's not that funny to me, but now he's doing this skit with this Erica Kirk chick, Captain Kirk that got beamed up last year, from the that assassination basically. But anyway, this is an article with Ted Cruz. This is hot new hip hop, but this is not even what I want to get on the point of something that I seen in the comment boards, which I did not know. And, and I'm not even sure if this is actually true. But if it is true coming out of his mouth, then Druski is a so-called white man. Now, this is the comment that I seen right here. Let me see if I can find it. Where was it? I was at the very top. Let me see. Salakia, bear with me. Yep. So this person right here, Baraka Flocka, says Druski half white, his grandfather white, so he can do what he wants. White people mad stay mad. So somebody responded, if your grandfather is white, that makes you 1/4 white, not half white. Nope, that makes you, and there's no such thing as white people. Let's just clear that up. There are different shades of red people, but what they are Edomites. And you do have Edomites that look like so-called black people. So-called white people that actually look like so-called black people. Because you have biblical nationalities. All this black, white, those are not ethnicities. Colors are not ethnicities. Land masses are not ethnicities. The Lord created 18 nations. All those nations have a biblical nationality. These people that's running around calling themselves white, they're Edomites. And Edomites can look like Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, so on and so forth. They can look like Africans because your seed goes through your father. So this 1/4 and this, he's 10% this, 20%. No, you are exactly what your father is. Women have absolutely nothing to do with the ethnicity of a child. But America teaches that. And this is why they call this place Babylon the Great, because Babylon goes into confusion. This is a very confused place. It keeps the citizens confused. People are all the average person here in this place, the average grown up pretty much only has about a 5th to 6th grade education or think on that level. When you look at Donald Trump got like maybe, if that guy got 75 words in his vocabulary, I'll be surprised. He only used about 25 words every time he opened his fucking mouth. So, but I just wanted to point this out. So now, I Googled it. Let me see. Because at first, I Googled, was his dad, so-called white. And it basically said that, supposedly his parents are so-called blacks, which I didn't even go into any photos on it. I probably should have or could have, but I mean, it doesn't matter. Now, I'm just looking at what he said. It says now, when I put in, is his granddad white? Based on social media posts and photos shared by the comedian himself in March 2026, yes, Druski indicated that his grandfather is white. Right? So now, I would have to say too, now if his grandfather is white, and his grandfather is of course, if his grandfather is white, so-called white on his father's side, then he's a white man. Now that's what we would have to look into. So I could ask that question. Let me see. Let me just put in, is Druski Is his father white? Now, if it's his mother, then she's an Edomite. And if she married a so-called black man, then he would be an Israelite. So we're just making a point as far as like this is a lesson for those that may be new to this truth, that you are what your father is. And we're going to get that in Numbers chapter 1. And they may not have the information in here on it. I just thought it was interesting to see that, supposedly, because he could have a so-called white grandfather on his mother's side. It says, while Druski has recently posted photos with an elderly white man he identified as his grandfather, the identity of his father's father is officially unknown. Okay, so paternal ancestry. In an interview with Chuck's in Philly, Druski shared that his father, David McClain DeBoards, does not know who his biological father is. So maybe he's talking about his, I don't know, his mother. Maybe that's his mother's. But either way, your seed line goes through your father. Now, the point that I'm trying to make is that if his grandfather is a so-called white man and he had a son and Druski's father is this son, then he is exactly what his father is. His father is exactly what his father is. His father is exactly what his father is. So on and so forth, going back until the beginning of seed line, man. Right? So that would make him a so-called white man. Okay, so it says the grandfather photos, the photo Druski shared in March 2026 showing him with a white grandfather, were posted as a comedic response to backlash over his white-faced skits. Many fans and sources consider these posts to be part of the joke rather than a confirmed genealogical revelation. Okay, so Druski has mentioned that his father has green eyes and believes that their last name, Desbordes, may have German roots, though he identifies his mother's side of the family as just black. Okay, so yeah, from the looks of it, he might be a damn Edomite. He act like one though to me, or he could be a damn tear. He do act like an Edomite. I don't know. That's just me. Me speaking as a man. He acts like an Edomite. He acts like a so-called white person. With that flat, dull ass comedic shit that he be doing. So let me see here. They got like a little link here. While many Americans simply say America when asked about their background, Druski digs a little deeper. He believes his last name. Okay, that might have been what they was talking about. This one says, no, Druski did not. Hell no, I know this ain't it. Let me see. Oh, man. Come on, bro. Who knows, though, man? Hey, he could very well be an Edomite. I don't know. He could be a terror, man. But anyway, the point of the lesson is, whether he is or not, you can look like a so-called black person and be an Edomite. You can look like a so-called Chinese person and be an Edomite. You can look like a Japanese person, so-called Japanese person, and be an Edomite, man. There are so-called black people that look like so-called white people that are Israelites. This very same man that you just seen right here that looks like a so-called white, even Erica Kirk or Charlie Kirk. Hell, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, J.D. Vance. There are Israelites that look like those men. You have to accept that. But you do have Israelites camps that teach, black only Israelites. You have to be, looking like Wesley Snipes. Hell, Wesley Snipes could be a damn fucking Edomite. He could be a so-called white man. I'm not saying that he is. I doubt it. You know what I'm saying? He got flavor. Because Jake got rhythm. You know what I'm saying? Jake is the salt of the earth. But the point that I wanted to make, and let's get this in Numbers. Now this little, you know what? And that makes me think about this movie, Colombiana, with this one chick. Matter of fact, you know what? Let me grab it real quick. I don't know if y'all know this movie. What's her name? I can't think of her name. She pretty decent looking chick, or she was years back, when she. But the kid that played the movie, that played her as a young girl in the movie, always thought that she was like and she could be an Israelite, but it was kind of like when I kind of researched it, I think she's an Edomite. But let me put this in. Colombiana. It's like that movie where she wanted to be like a little gangster. This chick right here. This is the cast right here, right? So Amanda Steinberg, she played the child. So she's older now, you know, in this particular picture. She, you know, she looked like, you know, when she was younger. She's still a little cutie though. But she looks to me, she looks way different from when she played that part. But let's see if they got the actual picture from her playing the part. And come to find out if what is true as far as, I mean, but you know, she could be an Israelite because the guy that's claiming to be her father is supposedly a small top, a Jewish person, which, you know, he could be an Israelite. But if he's really a small top, then this chick right here would be Amalek, man. But she looks like you know, she looks like a Jake. So this is where the Lord is gonna come and separate the wheat from the chaff. I mean the Salakia, the wheat from the tare, Salakia. So this is her. But I wanted to get that younger picture of her. I mean, but you can see who she is though. They don't have any pictures of her when she played that part. I mean, this is younger her, but you can see who she is right here. This is the picture right here that I'm familiar with. Remember, she was the little cutie that was, you know, her, you know, I ain't seen the movie in a while, but I think her parents ended up getting killed. Her uncle was a little gangster or whatever, and she wanted to learn how to be an assassin and shit. But, you know, and looking at her, you would think that this is a little so-called black chick. You know, but when you go off into her last name is actually Steinberg. That's a small top name right there. So when you go into the parents, let me see, is that I think this is her father right here. Tom Steinberg. See this guy right here? Now, there are Israelites that look like this guy. He could actually be an Israelite. But if he's really, you know, a small top, then here she go right here. And see, she kind of, you know, but this is her mom. So when you put people together like this, now the child could pick up on the color of the mother, but the mother has nothing to do with the ethnicity or what the child really is. They can just pick up on the features. You see what I'm saying? So you know, this is for, you know, new believers. I know a lot of brothers already know what's up, you know, that's been into this truth for a while. You know what I'm saying? But you know, we have to explain this, because when you look, and she just so happened to hook up with this Steinberg guy. Now let me see who he is. Let's see who Tom. Let me see how to put it here. Let me see. I don't know if it'll pop up like this. It's ethnicity. Okay, so let's go to AI. It says he's Danish, is of Danish and Greenlandic Inuit ethnicity. He lived in Copenhagen. Well, this something got to do with Danish or whatever, but let me see. Let me see if is he Jewish. Maybe not though. Who knows? But I mean, like I said again, it's all about you can't look at this. Okay, it says he's not Jewish. He is a Danish music promoter. Okay, well, I'm trying to, well, you know, again, I'm not exactly, because I know the Danes or the Danish, you know, Israelites are scattered everywhere. But I'm leaning more towards this as an Edomite. But anyway, let's get the scriptures. But I mean, it doesn't matter. The point is that you can't look at skin color when it comes to this thing, man. When it comes to this truth. Let's get Numbers chapter 1. Let me start at verse 2. It says, "Take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel after their families by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls, So this is how your lineage goes. It doesn't. It goes by the house of your fathers. It doesn't go by the house of your mothers. That's why you hear Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? Not Abigail, Isabella, and Jessica. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we're not saying that women are not important, but the seed line goes through the father every single time. You can't get around that. That's how lineage rolls. Now, when you jump down here to verse 18, and actually when you read on through here, you can see that the 12 tribes of Israel, the men are being named off right here. All the tribes are being named. So when you jump to verse 18, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers. See that? According to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. So it goes by the house of your fathers. Over here in the Amplified, it says your ancestry and their family clans by the father's households. See that? So that's how your lineage rolls. It's common sense. Children are the sperm of the man. They're with him throughout his life. You know what I'm saying? From him being a little baby being born to growing up to meeting a woman, those children were with him until he turned whatever age he was when he first bust off that sperm into a woman. Those sperm cells are him. That's him. It's just common sense, man. Let me see this other one. The parable of the wheat and tares. Let me see. I didn't spell it right. Let's get that account in Matthew chapter 13. And it's entitled Tares Among Wheat. So now if you're familiar with tares and wheat, which I haven't gone into that for a minute, let me get tares and wheat real quick. And you'll see that they look exactly alike until a certain point. Just get images. See? And I remembered this because when I grew up in the South, I remembered this, you know, but once I came into this truth, it stuck, you know what I'm saying? Because here's a picture of wheat and tares. They look alike, but they're not the same. The tares are nothing but weeds. The wheat is what you would keep. You know what I'm saying? That's see here. Here's another one. They look almost exactly alike. And this is perfect too. Somebody actually knows. They says these tares are out here playing wheat. Yeah, you got people out here like Tracy Ellis Ross. You got people like Lenny Kravitz, Jussie Smollett. There's plenty of these people that look like so-called black people, and they're actually not. You can tell by their spirit. You can tell how they act. They just don't have it like how Jake got it, man. You can't fake Jake, man. But I wanted to show this real quick before I go off into these scriptures on this wheat and tares. It's been a minute since I've gone into this. But we're just going to read through it real quick. Also, Lucky, I'm back in the comments on that. I wanted to. So now this is entitled Wheat and Tares because you can have so-called black people that look like so-called white people. You can have so-called white people that look like so-called black people. Or Chinese or Japanese. See that? All that, those names are not biblical. These are newer names that Esau has put upon the people to try and keep everybody from knowing that he's fucking Esau. He's an Edomite. Okay, but this is verse 24. Matter of fact, I'll try and read it in the Amplified. Matthew 13 and 24. Yahushua gave them another parable to consider, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field, right? But while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds, resembling wheat, right, among the wheat, and went away. So you have the so-called white man when he slept with the so-called black woman during slavery, and before that as well, you know. But we're talking about during slavery as far as our people. You had children that came out looking like so-called black people, but they were actually the seed of a so-called white man. And as time went on, because Esau, this man didn't care. He put they nigger-looking asses right into the field and worked his own children to the bone too. If they turned out a little bit more light-skinned, they could, you know, they might have worked in the house, you know. But those men wasn't allowed to like marry so-called so-called white women. They would marry into a so-called black family. And then as time goes on, those children will be Edomites. Those children will be Edomites. Now all of a sudden, they just dark fucking Edomites. They look like niggas, but they're actually the so-called white man. That's his seed. It's really very simple. Okay, but it says, but while his men were sleeping, verse 25 again, Matthew 13 and 25, Salakia. But while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds, resembling wheat among the wheat, and went away. So when the plant sprouted and formed again, the weeds appeared also. The servants of the owners came to him and said, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? Then how does it have weeds in it? He replied to them, an enemy has done this. That lets you know Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, he is the enemy. He's your enemy. The scriptures describes him as being your enemy in Deuteronomy chapter 28. It says that you were going to slavery to your enemies. Right? So it says he replied to them, an enemy has done this. The servants asked him, then do you want us to go and pull them out? But he said no, because as you pull out the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Let them grow together until the harvest, and at harvest time I will tell the reapers, first gather the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. And that right there says a lot, because the weeds ain't shit. And that goes off into Obadiah chapter 1. I mean, well, it's only one chapter anyway, but verse 18, where it talks about how Esau is going to be burned, man. He's gonna get that business, man. Matter of fact, let's go to it real quick. I want to jump back because I want to get the actual explanation for the parable, because later on in that chapter, the Lord explains to the disciples what was going on there. Let's go to Obadiah real quick. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 18. It says, let me read that in the Amplified to see how it reads. It says, then the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, in executing Yahweh's wrath, but the house of Esau will be like stubble. See? Like weeds, basically. Jacob shall set them on fire and consume them, the Edomites, so that there shall be no survivor of the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken it. And that's just an example. Now let's go back to Matthew. Okay, so let's move on down because it should have an explanation. The weeds explain right here, starting at verse 36. I'm going to stand amplified. The weeds explain. Matthew 13 and 36. Then he left the crowds and went into the house, and his disciples came to him, saying, explain clearly to us the parable of the weeds in the field. He answered, the one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man, which is Yahushua, which the world ignorantly calls Jesus. Right? And the field is the world. And as for the good seed, these are the sons of the kingdom, the Israelites, the elect of Israel, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And the weeds are the sons of the evil one. See that? Who's the evil one? Esau. And the enemy who sowed them is the devil. And that word devil just goes off into he's a deceiver. It's very deceptive to have somebody amongst you looking like your people and they're not your people, because they can do all kinds of damage to you. You'd be surprised at how many people that are around our people, you know what I'm saying, that's making all... Look at how they threw Obama in there. They threw Obama in there. Now, he's a tear from a Hamite nation, so to speak, because he looks like us, but he's not one of us. But see, our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. They didn't know that. They don't know. They really still to this day, this so-called black people really believe that this man was the first so-called black president, and you're not even black. And that's another thing that they throw at you with that black bullshit. Colors are not ethnicities, man. But anyway, it says, let me get verse 38 again. And the field is the world, and as for the good seed, these are the sons of the kingdom, and the weeds are the sons of the evil one. And the enemy who sowed them is the devil, and the harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. So just as the weeds are gathered up and burned in the fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all things that offend. Esau, he's an offender, man. He's adverse to the scriptures. He gave you white Jesus, knowing full well that the scriptures tells you that the Lord is a dark melanated man, woolly hair, deep voice, austere man. But he gave you a white God, you know, a bunch of nastiness. The Lord loves everything. He loves everybody. All that bullshit. Esau gave you, the so-called white man gave you that shit, man. Our people, this Christianity, idolatrous doctrine, man. Oh, shit. Okay, so it says, verse 41 again, the Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, those things by which people are led into sin, and all who practice evil, leading others into sin, and will throw them in the furnace of fire. In that place there will be weeping over sorrow and pain and grinding of teeth over distress and anger. Then the righteous, those who seek the will of Yahweh, will shine forth, radiating the new life, like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears to hear, let him hear and heed my words. But see, you will have these, the average Christian, they'll read this and it'll just blow all over them. That's why, we need our teachers. And Thawada to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai for sending us teachers, men that are of his own heart, prophets and elders or shepherds that are about the Lord's word for real. And that's through the Spirit, because only the Holy Spirit can give you the understanding of these scriptures. And if it don't resonate, with the average person, overall, they're not the children of Israel. Now, if a so-called Chinese person walk up and these scriptures resonate with his spirit, because our spirit is the same spirit as Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. If it resonates with his spirit and he picks up on it, he's an Israelite. Because when you go back generation, you come on, bro. You going back 500 years, 600 years, 700 years. An Israelite can look like any fucking body right now, but they're still Israelites. Why? Because of the seed line. Because your seed, no matter how many decades and decades and decades or generations and generations and generations ago it was, you are still an Israelite no matter how you look. And when you go into the book of Revelation, that's being spoke of too. When John was asked, who are these? Because in his time, he would be able to look at an Israelite and know, okay, that's an Israelite by their color, so to speak. But in these days and times, 2,000 years into the future, you're not going to be able to tell who's who. So you can't just look at the average so-called white person and be like, oh yeah, you a damn honky, you a cracker, this. You can't do that. You gotta try the spirit, and see what he thinks. You know what I'm saying, so to speak. The spirit, will reveal to you. Well, he's gonna pick up on it if he needs to. If he's the part of the elect, he's gonna get it anyway. It don't make no difference what he looks like. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick. I just seen that comment, and I still don't know if it's true or not. We don't know if Druski's grandfather. Now, again, if his grandfather, his father, if his grandfather had a son, and that son is Druski's father, then he is what his grandfather is as well. He would be an Edomite. But now, if his grandfather had his mother, and his mother is a so-called white woman, she would be an Edomite, but she actually got with a so-called black man, then that would make him an Israelite. See, women, again, they have nothing to do with ethnicity. The kid can come out looking totally like her. But when it straight comes down to it, you are what your dad is, your father is, man. You have to get that through your head if you're new in this truth, man. So, again, with that, I pray that the lesson was edifying. It was just something I wanted to do real quick. I seen it, found it to be interesting, you know what I'm saying, because... And we're going to all see. The Lord is going to open up everything. We're going to be able to see who's who, what's what, everything, man, once we get those new bodies. And, man, everything is going to be open, because we're seeing things. I forgot that scripture, how it's worded verbatim, but, we're seeing through a glass, a half glass, so to speak, or, we're seeing through it. We're not seeing a full picture. I'll put it that way, roughly paraphrasing. But anyway, with that, I pray that the lesson was edifying. Kwam Yashala and a Baba Ball.